Please mute yourself before we start.
The wife of his ex-boss.
Oh. Okay, we are now live.
Okay, well, we can make bigger.
Go ahead.
All right, well.
Shabbat Shalom, Boker Tov, Chag Sameach. We're going to begin our service on page 418 with Matovu. As we always begin Shabbat services, we invite you to participate in our service, in our congregational readings, alongside our B'nai Mitzvah this morning. And we invite you to sing along and participate actively while you are muted, since Zoom does not permit for us, unfortunately, to all sing together. But we do want to see your faces and contribute to the joy of this wonderful celebratory morning as we bring to the Torah two of our upcoming teens, Justin and Nathan, and celebrate the holiday of Sukkot. Man Simchatenu, Matovu. Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Israel. Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Israel. We continue with our service this morning with the blessing for Torah, which can be found either on page 166 or 430. And I'm going to send us over to Justin, who shall unmute himself and lead us in the blessing for Torah. Go ahead, Justin.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kadeshanu b'mitzvotov v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has commanded us to engage with words of Torah. And now Nathan is going to lead us with those very words of Torah on page 430. Nathan, unmute yourself, please.
Elu Devarim She'ela Em Shi'ur She'adam Ohel Perotehem Ba'olam Hazeh Ve'akeren Kayemet Lo La'olam Haba Ve'elu Hein Kibud Avain Ugmilut Hasadim Vehashkamat Beit Hamidra Shehari Ve'arvi Vehaknasat Orhim Uvikur Holim Vehaknasat Kala Uvayat Hame Veyun Tefila Vehava'at Shalom Bein Adam lahavero v'talmud Torah keneged kulam.
Beautiful. And the words that he has just said are, these are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. And we continue with more verses from Torah, actually, Tanakh. Hallelujah. We sing words of praises to express our gratitude and to warm us up in the morning. So everybody can say hallelujah together. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Elbet kocho, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Vigvurotal, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Teka shofar, hallelujah. Belevel v'sinor, hallelujah. Betofu mafol, hallelujah. Beminim be'uga, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Betzilzel neshama, hallelujah. Betzilzel etruah, hallelujah. Betzilzel neshama, hallelujah. Betzilzel etruah. Kol hanshama, with all my soul, tehallel, hallelujah. Kol hanshama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Chatzi Kadesh, Yitgadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
ועלמא דברי חילותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וגמכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בהגלה ובזמן קריב ימרו.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Omer Almaya Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושילתה ושבחתה ונחמתה דמירה ועלמה ואמרו.
Amen.
We continue with Baruch Hu, our call to worship, transitioning into the next section of our prayer. If you are able, please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vaed.
We continue with words of gratitude for having the sunshine. Justin, please lead us in Yotzer Or on page 454.
We have page 190.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's
Baruch
okay,
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei hoshech, aseh shalom uvorei et hakol, hameir wa'aretz v'ledarim, alecha v'rechamim u'tuvo mechadesh, b'hol yom tamid, ma'asecha v'reishit, marabu ma'asecha Adonai, kuam b'chokma asita, malach ha'aretz, kinyanecha titbarak, Adonai Eloheinu, al shavot ma'asecha, yedecha ve'al me'arei, or shiasita gif arechasela, or hadash ta al tazon ta'ir, v'nizkek kuanu mehayirei or ata Adonai yotzer hamarut.
Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. We continue on page either 192 or page 456. We have two versions of Sidurim this morning, so we're going to do our best to stay together in English. Please join me. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears whose trust led you to reach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, focus our minds on your mitzvot, unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Then we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, and never stumble. Having trusted in your great and awesome holiness, we shall celebrate your salvation and joy. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Justin and Nathan, just keep yourself unmuted so you can actually be ready every time. Shema, Justin.
Israel, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Va'ed.
Please be seated and we continue with Be'achtam. Justin, that's you.
Okay, Justin.
Adonai, Elohecha, Behovecha, Uvo Nafshecha, Ukol Meodecha, Vehayu Devarim Ha'el, Asher Anachi, Mitzavecha Hayom Ha'avavecha, Vishinantam Venecha, Vedivar Tavam, Vishivtecha, Bevetecha, Uwecha, Derek, Ushokbecha, Ukumecha, Ushatam Yadecha, Visharecha, Uto Tefo Benecha, Uktaltam Almejizo Betecha, Visharecha. Lemon Tizkaru, Vasitam Komitvotam, Vihitam Kidoshim, Lochacham, Ani Adonai Elohim, Asher Hotzeit Yeshem, Me'erit Mitzrayim, Mahil Orcham, Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohim.
Adonai Elohim Emet. We continue with our prayer, thanking God for our freedom, and also reminding us that in some places in the world, we are still yearning and praying for freedom for all humankind. And today, this morning, we're going to sing this melody to the traditional Sukkot melody. Mi chamocha v'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו Adonai Himmelch Leolam Va'ed. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו מלך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. We continue with our Amidah this morning, which is either on page 468 or page 204. And we invite all of you to rise if you are able, and for Nathan to lead us.
Adonai, Sefatai Tifta, Ufia Gitehi Ladeha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak ve'Elohei Yaakov ve'Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim Vekoneh Hakol Vezoher Hasdei Avot V'imahot Uvemei Migula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mehaye Hakol Atah Rav Lahoshia Morid Hatal Mehalkel Hayim Behesed Mehaye Hakol Berahamim Rabim Somen Noflim Verofe Holim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Mihamoha Ba'al Gevurot Umidomela Melech Memi Umehayem Uzmat Miak Yeshua Bene'eman Ata Lahahayot Hakol Baruch Ata Adonai Mahaye Hakol.
לקדש את שמך לעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מדיר שמך, מדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו ואבינו מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים לקדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם הבא, כי מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Amen. We continue privately.
עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Shabbat Shalom. Since it is not only Shabbat, it is also the first day of Sukkot, the Chag, our festival. We add extra words of praise to God. We add our Hallel, our verses from the Psalms, giving thanks for this wondrous season. If you are in the big Siddur, we are on page 560. It is also tradition to rise for Hallel if you are able.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher
Amen. Praise you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to sing hymns of praise.
We continue with Psalm 114. בצאת ישראל ממצרים, בית יעקב מהלועז. הייתה יהודה לקודשו, ישראל ממשלותה. הים רעב ינוס, הירדן ייסוב לאחור, ההרים רקדו חלים, גבעות כבני צאן, מלך הים איתנו. הירדן ייסוב לאחור,
לאחור, ההרים
ירקדו חיילים,
חיילים,
גבעות כבני צאן,
כבני צאן,
מלפני אדון,
אדון,
הארץ מלפני אלוהי יעקב, אהובתי הצור, הגמאים, חלמיש למען יומיים, למען יומיים. We continue with Hodul Adonai Kitol, Psalm 117. Yababam bam bam, or 118. Yababam bam bam, Hodul Adonai Kitol, Le'olam, Olam Chasdod. Yababa yabam bam yabam bam bam, yabam bam 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 bam, Yomar Israel. Yabam bam bam yabam bam bam, Ki le'olam chasdod. No yomruna bet haron, Ki le'olam chasdod. Yomruna ire Adonai, Ki le'olam chasdod. Yababam bam bam bam, yababam bam bam, Hodul Adonai Kitol. Yababam bam bam bam, yababam bam bam, Ki le'olam chasdod. We continue with more words from this same psalm. Pitchu li sharei tzedek. Pitchu li sharei tzedek, Avraham Modeya. Pitchu li sharei tzedek, Avraham Modeya. Modeya, Adonai, tzadikim yavohu bo, odecha ki alitani, v'tehi Yeshua, v'tehi Yeshua, תהי ישועה. זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו. זה היום לאדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו. נגילה ונשמחה בו. נגילה ונשמחה.
Adonai Eloheinu, Koma Asecha. All your works shall praise you, Adonai our God, and your faithful ones, the righteous who do your will, and all your people, the house of Israel, thank you in joyous song, and bless, praise, glorify, exalt, extol, sanctify, and proclaim the sovereignty of your name. For it is good to give thanks and to sing praises to your name, because throughout all time to eternity, you are God. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal batishbachot. Praise to you, Adonai, sovereign, praised in song. You may be seated. Let's take a few moments before we start our Torah service, before we welcome the Torah in our midst. Why don't we welcome each other? You can put in the chat, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, Happy Festival, say where you're coming from. Mazel Tov is always in order. Say Shabbat Shalom to the people in the room with you. Kiss and a hug, unless you're quarantining from them, is always appropriate. So now, if you're in the big Siddur, we're on page 494. If you're in a slim Siddur, we're on page 230 for our Torah service.
Are we starting the Torah service, Rabbi?
Starting the Torah service.
All right. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah.
If you're able,
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Adonai, Adonai. El Rachum v'Chanun, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Hakayim, Rav Chesed v'Emet, Noter Chesed alafim, Noter Chesed alafim. נוסבון ופשע וחטא ונקם.
Adonai, Adonai, a God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and granting pardon. Justin, Nathan, you probably didn't expect to be in your homes this day. We've been talking about this for months. I remember I started working with both of you at the beginning of the pandemic, and here we are. But I want you to imagine that you are in the sanctuary right now. I want you to imagine you're standing in front of the open ark with the Torahs in front of you. Because every time we stand at the Torah, we do some imagination, and we're imagining that we're standing at Sinai. We're standing at Sinai where our people received the Torah, and it says, our tradition says that it wasn't just the people who were there thousands of years ago, it was the people who came before them and the people who came after them. So I want you to imagine that it's not just you standing there, but it's all the generations of your family. All the generations of your family are handing you the Torah, like God gave the Torah to the people at Sinai. Handing you the Torah, it's not just the scroll that's in the cantor's arms right now. It's our life, our way of life, our way of seeing the world. We're handing this gift to you right now. I pray that you cherish it, that you hold it close with you all of your life.
So traditionally, we would pass this scroll from generation to generation, but we're passing it to you spiritually. And we invite you, when this is all over, to come and hold it, and hold it with its entire gravitas in the sanctuary when we're going. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Please be seated.
So we're going to begin with Justin's words, with Justin's Devar Torah.
Can I ask the cantor, you're going to have to turn off the sound of the Torah because you're echoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have sound.
Go ahead.
Today is Sukkot, first day of the festival of Sukkot. Our Torah tells us about the sacrifices of our ancestors we bring to the temple during this festival. What is sacrifice about? Our people would sacrifice an animal or a crop, something that is of value to show gratitude to God. In ancient times, we used to kill and cook animals in our rituals. While we might think that this is foreign, it isn't because we think it is wrong to kill animals. We still kill animals, but it is not out of our love for God or to feel closer to God. It is to feed our hunger. We no longer sacrifice since the destruction of the Jerusalem temple. So today we try to get closer to God through prayers and righteous acts. We give money to the nearby needy by donating the to Tzedakah, for example. We sacrifice in this way to come closer to God, to show God we care by caring for each other. Each person has their own idea of what they will sacrifice for something important to them. Many people have recently suffered from the COVID-19 virus. People had job losses and lost wages and even the loss of loved ones. Our society has made huge sacrifices throughout this pandemic. I am very lucky to have good parents, a warm home, food, and electronics. I understand that all children are as lucky as I am. This is why I like to donate my time to make a donation to fight hunger. I have packed food for boxes for the temple of the JRA to deliver to the needy. This made me feel that I was making a good use of my time and giving back. I also love dogs, and we adopted our dog Sophia as a puppy from 11th Hour Rescue. I would like to help this organization out through volunteering or fundraising. I feel that you make a sacrifice, you give a little piece of yourself, and it makes people feel good. It makes the world a better place. While we no longer have the temple rituals of our ancestors, our sacrifices today can still bring us closer to God, especially our acts of love and care for the others.
Thank you, Justin. Now get ready to chant. And I'm going to call up for the first aliyah for Justin. Jeffrey. No, I'm not going to call Jeffrey. I'm going to call Toby Stein, Philip Stein, Howard Eisner, Marissa Eisner, Max Eisner, and the proud parents of Justin, Jody Eisner, and Michael Eisner. Ya'amdu teva Pesach. וחיים שלמה בן פנינה ויעקב, מרים בת קלמן וסייבל, וחנה יהודי בת פסח טבע לבית יצחק, מרדכי בן פנינה ויעקב לעלייה הראשונה. Go ahead. 3, 2, 1.
Baruch hu et Adonai hambarach.
Baruch Adonai hambarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hambarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Go ahead, Justin.
Baruch atah Baruch.
No, B'chol HaNefesh, chant from the Torah.
Amen. B'chol HaNefesh asher ta'aseh kol melacha v'etzem hayom hazeh v'ha'avadeti et hanefesh ahi mikarev amav. Lo ta'asu uka olam with the whole moshotechem. Shabbat Shabbaton hu wachem ve'initam et nafshotechem me'erev ad erev tishbetu Shabbatechem. Ve'yedaber Adonai.
No, stop. That was the aliyah. Stop. Good. Can I hear the blessing after from all of our family, please?
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai, go.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Good. And now I'd like to invite Justin as a bar mitzvah. Ya'amud b'chur bar mitzvah. Chai Moshe Zisa ben Chana Yehudit v'Yitzchak Mordechai. La'aliyah Torah. Now you can do the blessings, Justin.
Vayedaber Adonai.
Baruch et Adonai hamevorach. Go. Wait, hold on.
Baruch et Adonai hambarach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hambarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Now go ahead and chant your verses from Torah.
Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael lemor. V'hamisha asar yom. V'chodesh hashvi'i hazeh chag haSukkot. Shivat yamim Adonai. Bayom Harishum Mikra Kudash Como Echad Avodah Lo Tasu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu et Torah emet v'hayei olam natan b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Siman tov u'mazal tov v'siman tov, siman tov u'mazal tov v'siman tov, siman tov u'mazal tov v'siman tov, yelanu, 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 u'v'chol Yisrael, yelanu, yelanu, ולכל ישראל ילנו, ילנו, ולכל ישראל ילנו, ילנו, ולכל ישראל. Now if I can invite our Eisner family to say their words of blessing to their son, to Justin.
Mike and I would like to thank our family and friends for making the trip to your living room to celebrate this religious milestone with us. We would also like to thank Lisa for working with him on Skype, Rabbi Satz, and Cantor Galid. Today, our son Justin is a man. We are so proud of all your accomplishments and for his fun, curious, and loving nature. Justin has surprised us in many ways. He has really matured and even become more organized this year. He has handled
So I'm going to talk a little bit about our hopes for you from the future. And actually, before we do this, I'm going to go off record. And I'm going to put my bar mitzvah yarmulke on for this speech, and I'm 40 years old. So the first quality I want to talk about when you stop drinking is how easily you make friends. You know, you have your friends from the neighborhood, friends from camp, you're gaining friends. But when we go to a bar mitzvah where you don't know anybody, or we go on vacation to a resort or on a cruise, you seem to always find someone who, just listen, you always seem to find someone who you get to play with and hang out with, and that's a great quality, and I hope you keep that up. The next quality is how you adapt to change. Obviously, we've all had to adapt to change since the beginning of the year when COVID-19 hit. For you and other kids, you had to deal with school being different. You went in March, you were in school like you've always been, and then they tell you, okay, next week you're doing virtual school. And nobody, not the teachers, not the kids, had any real preparation for that. But you adapted to it. You took to it well. You showed responsibility. You attended your virtual classes. You do your assignments. And really, with the exception of that first night, which was a train wreck and which night we shall never speak of again, you've been really terrific. You've shown a lot of responsibility and you adapted very well to that change. Life isn't always going to go the way you expect it. And when these things happen, you need to adapt, and you've shown that ability to adapt. The last thing I want to talk to you about is accepting challenges and not being afraid to fail. A while ago, you decided that you wanted a new PC, and we said we were going to get you one. And you started doing a lot of research, and every day you came up with a new PC you were looking into and you wanted. And then one day you came to us and you said, hey, you know what? I want to build my own PC. And I have to tell you, I don't know if you saw it in my face, but I was a little skeptical. Obviously, it was something you've never done, and it certainly wasn't anything I could help you with if there were problems. I've never put a PC together. I can turn a PC on and off, and that's about it. And there are a lot of things that could have gone wrong with that, okay? But you said, I want to do it. I want to try it. You did the research, the work to find out how to do it. And we ordered the pieces and you put them together as they came in. And then when the final piece, the motherboard came in, you sat down and you put it together. And the only help I gave you was screwing in some screws at your direction. So that was all you. I just want to tell you, there are going to be times in life when you're going to want to do something, but you're going to be a little nervous and say, hey, I don't know if I can do this. And I want you, like with the PC, I want you to try. Okay. I know in school you have a sports literature class, and I see, you get all these quotes from, athletes, great athletes, Michael Jordan, Venus Williams, Ernie Banks, Mia Hamm. And while all of these people are, great, talented, successful people in their sport, they also have one other thing in common. They've all failed a lot. Okay. Being great doesn't mean that you don't fail. As a matter of fact, I think anybody who's ever succeeded has failed sometimes. So I want you to keep that up. Don't be afraid to fail. Whenever you think, oh, I don't know if I can do this, think back to the PC. Because right now you've got a working PC that not only do you use for gaming, but you get to use for virtual school, which is awesome. Finally, parents always want their children to have a better life than them. Your mother and I are very lucky to have each other, wonderful families, amazing friends, and jobs that we enjoy. And from what we've seen from you, especially in the past few years, we have every confidence that going forward, your life 40 years from now will be even better than ours. Again, we're proud of you for all the hard work you put into today, and I just want to wish you mazel tov.
Love you.
Mazel tov to the Eisner family. Thank you for those words. Nathan, are you ready? It's your turn. You have to start by unmuting yourself. Or somebody.
I'm ready.
Okay, good. So if you could please offer your Devar Torah, and we could hear your wisdom about this Torah portion.
Okay. The Torah reading for today, the first day of Sukkot, contains the calendar of Jewish holy days. One of these days is Yom Kippur. You remember that from a few days ago? One of the main practices of Yom Kippur is fasting from food and drink and other pleasures. Yom Kippur is one of the most widely observed Jewish rituals, even for people who don't go to synagogue. It is observed in many different ways, but one of the most common practices to observe Yom Kippur is to fast from sundown to sundown. Fasting is an opportunity for each of us to observe Yom Kippur in a most personal way. Not eating all day or participating in fun activities is very challenging, but it is a way to show God and ourselves that we are willing to make a sacrifice. To fast on the Day of Atonement is also an act of solidarity with the suffering of the Jewish people. I fasted for the first time this year on Yom Kippur, and I can see now that it is not easy, but that it is a commitment to honor the day and the Jewish people. Fasting reminds me of what quarantine has been like. During quarantine, we have to wear a mask when we go out, and we can't really see our friends and play sports as we used to. But by doing this, we are helping other people and ourselves to not get sick. It has been very challenging, but I know that fasting from normal activity now will mean that we will be able to truly appreciate those experiences when we can fully participate again. I look forward to that day when we can all be together in sports, family gatherings, and even in school.
Thank you for those words. Are you ready to chant? I'm going to call up your first Aliyah, which is actually your third Aliyah today. We're going to call up Jeffrey Ullman and Honey Ullman, which are just going to join you on that screen over there, hopefully. יעמדו יעקב בן דוד וביולה וחיה רחל ודניאל ומשה לעלייה השלישית.
Jen said invited us and Pauline for sushi in the Sukkot tomorrow night. I sort of feel like we should for them all.
You ready?
I can't hear you. Okay.
If you haven't muted yourself, please mute yourself. We don't hear your plans for tonight.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
We're ready.
Okay. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Shivat Yamim Takrivu Ishe Ladonai Bayom Hashemini Mikra Kodesh Yihye Lahem Vehikroftem Ishe Ladonai Atzeret He Kol Molechet Avodah Lo Ta'asu Ele Moadei Adonai Asher Tikra'u Otam Mikra'e Kodesh Lahakriv Ishe Ladonai Ola Uminha Zevach unesahim devar yom beyomo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet b'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you. And for the next Aliyah 4, we call Jordan Ullman and Jesse Wiley. יעמדו דוד בן חיה רחל ויעקב וחנה בת חיה רחל ויעקב לעלייה רביעית.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Milevad Shabbato Adonai Umilevad Matenotehem Umilevad Kol Nidrehem Umilevad Kol Nidvutehem Asher Titnu Ladonai Bahamisha Asar Yom Lahodesh Hashevi'i Be'os Pehem Et Tivuat Haaretz Tahogu Et Hag Adonai Shiv'at Yamim Bayom Harishon Shabbaton Uvayom Hashmini Shabbaton.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet b'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the 7th Aliyah, I'm so happy to call our proud parents, Jamie and Douglas Frick. Ta'amod Nechama bat Chaya Rachel veYaakov la'aliyah shevi'it.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Borach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ulkaftem lahem bayom harishon peri eitz hadar kapot timarim ve'anaf eitz avot ve'arvei nahal Usemachtem Lifnei Adonai Elohim Shivat Yamim V'hagotem Oto Hag Adonai Shivat Yamim Bashana Hukat Olam Ledorotehem Bahodesh Hashevi'i Tahogu Oto.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And for our sixth Aliyah of the day, I'm going to call up Nathan. Ya'amod b'chur bar mitzvah Moshe ben Nechama la'aliyah Torah.
Barhu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Borach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Basukot teshvu shiv'at yamim kol ha'ezra be'Yisrael yeshavu basukot leman yed'u dorotehem ki basukot hoshafti et bnei Yisrael Behotzi otam me'eretz Mitzrayim. Ani Adonai Eloheim. Vayidaber Moshe et Moadei Adonai el bnei Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet V'haye olam nata betohenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov. I wanted to sing along, but you can't on the Zoom, so I hope you got the drift. Now, Jamie and Daniel, you want to come to the frame and offer your words of blessing?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Nathan, stand up.
What?
Nathan, stand up.
This is good. No, that's good. All right. It's finally here. I've been thinking about today for what seems like an eternity, and it's finally here, and it's almost over, and you were spectacular. When we got the date, even though you turned 13 in August, I assumed the date would end up in September. When we were given today, October 3rd, I thought that's odd. The date seems familiar. And at this point, nobody realized it was a Jewish holiday. But we did realize the most amazing thing. Not only was this very weekend 13 years ago that we did your naming at Temple Israel in Boston, where we were living and I was working, but it's also the birth date of my grandpa Danny, who you were named after, and your father's grandpa George. I think they call that Bashert. You are so much like my grandpa Danny. He was always very quiet, not shy, but reserved. He always stood quietly behind Grandma Doris and let her take the lead in almost all matters, except on the dance floor. He always had chiclets in his pocket or chocolate candy in the freezer. He loved his family and he loved a good party and always managed to drop an inappropriate comment or two just for fun. According to your father, Grandpa George was apparently the life of the party. He loved to host the parties, bring the desserts, he loved music, and gave your father his penchant for 80s music. Nathan, I can see you in both of these men. Quiet and unassuming, trying not to make waves. But when you're in your comfort zone, you do love to have a good time. You're quietly social in your own way, talking to your friends at night over an intense game of NBA 2K21. Always needing a buddy or two to make any activity more fun, even if that means dragging your brothers into a questionable wiffle ball game where the rules seem to change every few minutes when you want to be at bat. Every teacher has always told me what a dream you were to have in class. Every playdate parent was impressed with your manners, and every coach has always told us and praised your respectful coachability. But Nathan, it's your quiet strength of mind and true-hearted character. That's what really stands out to me. As our firstborn, we assumed your birth would be ordinary, and it was anything but. Born 6 weeks early due to my preeclampsia, your silent arrival was intense and scary. You didn't even come out crying or breathing for that matter. You were whisked off to a different hospital, and I was told it would be weeks before I would probably even see you or hold you. They rattled off potential complications from a traumatic birth and a low APGAR score, but within a week and a half, you were back with me and ready to be discharged from the hospital, surprising everyone, especially me. Your quiet strength and adaptability were already apparent and part of your DNA. After the initial hump of adjusting to an unknown allergy, you were the type of baby that parents dream of. You slept a ton. I could change the schedule. It never affected you. We even brought you to a 30th birthday party at a Chinese restaurant, and you slept through the entire thing in your stroller. Your later toddler had made up for being an easy baby, but I'll let that slide. Your love of baseball is one of my favorite things about you. When you were young, I always described you to others like a mastiff puppy, eager to play, always tripping over their own large paws. The first to get hurt and playing outside, I didn't hold out too much hope for a sports scholarship. But then something happened. You found your love of the game. I love to watch you play because I can see it brings you pure joy. But the thing that stands out to me most is you're the definition of a team player. No attitude, no talking back. When something changes or is thrown at you, you just adapt to your surroundings and adjust like it was no big deal. It is similar to the way I've seen you handle COVID and quarantine. Nate, you've taken all of this in stride. You've handled this experience better than most adults I know, including myself. School's all virtual? Sure, I'll do what I can. I can't see my friends in school? Okay. I'll ride my bike all over town, and when it was okay, you created your own small pod of friends to find a way to make it through. I think many people underestimate you because you slip past them without notice, but they're missing out because you are such a bright and amazing young man, and I can't wait to see what you will do next. Your father and I, as well as your entire family, are so proud of you today on the accomplishment and look forward to watching you become the man I know you already are. Mazel tov, and we love you. Nailed it. Yep.
I'm muted. I have to unmute myself. Thank you very much, Mazel Tov. We're going to lift the Torah.
Yes, please rise as we lift the Torah. Our Haftarah, which Nathan will be chanting in a second, comes from the prophet Zechariah.
You can be seated, everybody.
Zechariah speaks of Sukkot as this vision of world peace, this vision that all the peoples of the world will come into God's sukkah. Sukkot in our ancestors called Chag, the festival. This is the festival that we see the vision of the whole world coming together. Nathan taught us about, or I'm sorry, Justin taught us about sacrifices. In fact, Sukkot was the holiday in the ancient time that had the most sacrifices. And there were sacrifices done for every nation of the world. Our ancestors would bring oxen for every nation of the world. This is our holiday of world peace that Zechariah dreams about. So I am going to spotlight Nathan for our Haftarah.
Nathan, blessing before and then chant your verses.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar bin ve'im tovim ve'ratzah v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'Torah Uve Moshe Avdo, Uve Yisrael Amo, Uve Nviei Ha'emet, Vatzedek,
Amen.
V'haya Yom Echad, Hu Yivada LaAdonai Lo Yom Velo Laila Vaya Le'et Erev Yihye Or V'haya Bayom Hahu Yitzeu Ma'im Hayim Mirushalayim Hetziam El Hayam Hakadmoni Vehetziam El Hayam Ha'aharon Bakayetz Uvahodesh Yihye
והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. We please rise, if you're able, as we return the Torah to the ark. Nathan and Justin to stay standing up, but everybody else please be seated. Nathan, Justin, it's been an honor, a pleasure studying with you these months when we were just figuring out how to do things online, how to interact online, and you taught us beautiful words of Torah from our conversations, words about sacrifice, words about fasting that leads to action. I want to give you some more words of Torah about Sukkot. Sukkot, I think it's perfect that you're celebrating becoming B'nai Mitzvah during Sukkot, because Sukkot, I would say, is the most teenagery of festivals. And what do I mean by that? Well, Sukkot, our Torah tells us, is a commemoration of the wandering through the wilderness. And as you two are becoming teenagers, you will realize that there's a lot of wondering. Not wondering like, oh, W-O-N-D, wonder, sorry, my Midwestern accent, I can't do the difference. Wandering, meaning it's a long haul. The 40 years in the wilderness our people spent is like being a teenager. You are not quite a kid anymore, and you're not quite an adult. There's that long span where you're figuring it out, like our ancestors in the wilderness were figuring out what it means to be a holy people. You too, hopefully, are figuring out, what does it mean to be an adult? What does it mean to be an adult Jew? And it takes a long time. It's not like today, you're 13, you've been called to the Torah, and now you're an adult. We'll give you the keys, you go get a job. No. It's little by little, step by step, choice by choice. Before the service started, I told you about the tzitzit that we wear that are there to remind us of our mitzvot, remind us how we're to live as Jews, remind us of every choice we make can be a choice for good or bad, for holiness, for beauty, for justice, for compassion. These choices that we make, sometimes we mess up, but we're always going forward in this wilderness. These choices we make a difference in the world, make a difference in our lives and the lives of our loved ones, make a difference for everyone. But it takes a long time to figure out, to learn how to make these right choices. We're wandering in the wilderness. But you're growing in, both of you are growing into your maturity. I know I heard about sportsmanship. I heard about figuring technical things out. I know you love sports and you love music and you are figuring out what it means to be an adult. Choice by choice, step by step, through this wilderness, like our ancestors in their Sukkot. So my blessing, my prayer for both of you, that step by step through this wilderness, you continue to grow into the men that you will become, into the Jewish men that you will become, of integrity, of goodness, of kindness, of compassion. Choice by choice, step by step, because someday you will enter the promised land like our ancestors. Someday the wandering will be over. Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov.
So I can only just add to the rabbi's beautiful words about wandering and about journey, just kind of one more play on where we are right now in this sacred time, in the time of Sukkot. The sukkah is this impermanent structure, and it is, to use the rabbi's words from yesterday, flimsy. It's impermanent. It could fall. It's not stable. It is a constant reminder for us to be adaptable, to understand adaptability. And both you and your parents talked about how you've rolled with the punches with this climate, with this pandemic, how you guys just adapted to the situations in your lives. And that is a sign of adaptability, and flexibility are ultimately a sign of resilience. And the Jewish people have had to have bar mitzvahs in all kinds of extreme situations. And this one is another one. And it's a story that you're going to live to tell to your grandchildren about your COVID bar mitzvah. So I pray for you that you take these qualities that you have shown to be here and to be joyful here today, this morning, in this sacred time, to continue to have these qualities as reminders alongside your life when challenges appear, and to continue to remind you also that your Jewish education only really begins today, because Jewish education is a bottomless pit of knowledge and wisdom. And now that you've learned how to be a Jew in the community, it is now upon you to continue to study and learn and deepen your roots and your Jewish knowledge, and to keep your ancestry going for generations to come. So mazel tov from you, and we are going to, the rabbi and I are going to ask upon blessings upon the two of you at this time, using the words of the priestly benediction. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Nathan and Justin, may God bless you and protect you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
Justin and Nathan, may God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Is Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May the Eternal One always lift you up. May you always find favor in God's presence. And may God grant you the blessing of shalom, of peace. And we all say, Amen.
Amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
I ask all of Nathan and Justin's extended families at home to please rise as we give more blessings. We thank God for giving us life, for sustaining us, for enabling us to reach this joyous occasion.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Everybody sing together with me.
Please be seated. Some words about Sukkot. People often say that Sukkot is a harvest festival, but it's not really a harvest festival, because Pesach, Passover in the spring, is the beginning of the barley harvest. And then 7 weeks later, Shavuot is the beginning of the wheat harvest, and then the first fruits of all different kinds of crops from the land of Israel. And Sukkot usually falls in October, but there's nothing that starts to grow in October. No, it's the end of the harvest. Sukkot is the end of the harvest festival of all the summer crops in the land of Israel. Now, that might seem like just a slight difference, but I think it means a lot, because our ancestors would build these Sukkot out in the fields to collect the rest of the harvest for the year and give thanks for all that came before, all the food that came before throughout the summer, because our ancestors, in the winter in the land of Israel, there was no more food growing. That means they had to collect enough at Sukkot to last the rest of the 6 months of the year. So Sukkot was about gratitude for what already came, not what is about to come. Also, Sukkot is about the processing of the food. You collect the wheat throughout the summer, but you can't eat wheat or barley or whatever kind of grain. You have to process it into something that you can eat, bread. Now, think about, before we eat bread, which we'll do at the end of the service, what's the blessing we give? Baruch atah hamotzi lechem min haaretz, that God brings out bread from the earth. But we know that's not true. God doesn't bring out bread from the earth. God created the world with grains, and we make bread. Or, for most of us today, a farmer grows the grains, a miller makes the flour, the baker makes the bread, we buy the bread at ShopRite, and then we eat it. It's not God bringing it out of the earth. No, it's about the whole process, the whole divine human partnership that brought the bread to our table. Sukkot is about the divine human partnership, this process. It's the processing holiday. And of course, as the cantor said, Sukkot is about the fragility of this process. We're living, as you can see, I'm out in the temple sukkah, we're living in a flimsy hut. And we realize that we're not in control of the world, that all that we have could collapse in on us. We need this partnership with God to sustain us. At the end of Sukkot, at Shmini Atzeret, we pray for rain in the land of Israel. It only rains starting now until the spring. You realize how fragile life is when there's not a lot of rain. You realize you need this partnership. You need to be sustained. We don't want it to rain during Sukkot, because that might make our life a little too fragile outside in the sukkah. But afterwards, we need the sustaining power of this rain. We need the gifts that God gives us from all the fruits of the summer, processing them during Sukkot so that we can sustain ourselves through the rains of the winter. So what is Sukkot about? It is about gratitude. It is about partnership. And it is about the fragility of life. And all of that our ancestors call Zman Simchatenu, the season of our joy. We need all of this for joy. The partnership, the recognition of fragility, the recognition of gratitude. That's what joy is. Shabbat Shalom. Moadim L'Simcha, may you have a joyful holiday. And so, let us begin to conclude our service with Aleinu, which in our Siddur is found on page 322. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא שם כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We think of our loved ones whom died whose death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think of the recent death of Harriet Broadwin, whose funeral will be tomorrow, and we think of the death this week of our member Ted Largman. We're in the period of Shloshim, the first month of mourning for Celia Zisfine, Tony Berliner, Fred Pallas, Stephen Jacobs, Marcia Love Reinfeld Samuels, Mercedes Fernandez de Tejada, and Michael Sorkin. This week marks the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of Emma Oresti, Morris Bedrin, Edna Blank, Anthony Blasberg, Josephine DeBovie, Herbert Epstein, Nellie Foreman, Lois Firstman, Ida P. Glick, Max Goldstein, Michael Golem, Benjamin Horowitz, Morris Horowitz, Lillian Karner, Carol Katz, Wendy Keel, Richard Landau, David Levy, Frida Mauskoff, Betty Michelson, Jerome Moskowitz, George Raskin, Phyllis Raskin, Ruth Raskin, Jan Ravid, Peter Saracen, Hans Schran, Philip Singer, Earl Spiegel, Susan Spur, Roy Teich, Leonard Tolkoff, and Meyer Wolf. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon, uv'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam olamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, shemei d'kudashah, b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma, v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
Shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen.
We call the Eisners and the Fricks back for our Kiddush.
You guys can raise your glasses. And maybe the family could join you together. Frick, you can also join up.
Yeah,
And
just
raise up all the kids, all the little kids, bring them to the frame. We can see them. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, בני ישראל אותי לעולם. בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ביום השביעי, שבת ויינפש, שבת ויינפש, שבת ויינפש. ועברו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לעשות ברית עולם.
קימבר אדוני את יום השבת וקדשהו, אלא מועדי אדוני מקרא קודש, אשר תקראו אותם במועדם, וידבר משה אל מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל.
So you could tell us, Baruch atah Adonai. Go ahead, Nathan and Justin.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen. Take a sip and share with your family. And we have Motzi. We have challah to break.
What is love? What is love?
Go ahead, lead us in Motzi.
Baruch atah
Slowly, slowly.
I don't want to drink it.
Melech haolam
Do I have to drink it?
amotzi lechem min
Min
ha'aretz.
haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Mazel tov. Shabbat shalom. Mazel tov. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, moedim l'simcha.